Portrait in Sepia by Isabel Allende. And I gotta tell you, this was a good read. But it wasn't magical realism, so that's not all she writes. So I can't just grab any Isabel Allende's book and expect it to be magical realism. But I can't expect it to be there a fucking bird on my... I can't expect it to be beautifully written, is what I was gonna say. Shh. Pitchy bird. Which this was. This was beautifully written. And it seemed to... it's written in first person, right? So the character is telling her story. And I feel like this is like a... So the character that tells the story is obviously a woman in her 30s who seems to have just discovered herself. And that's pretty much the end of the story. Like, it's a 30-year-old woman. She tells her story, and so I would say that this character's story is not over. In fact, it may be just starting. I don't know if there's plans in the works for a continuing story based on his character, Aurora or Liming, whatever you want to call her. She has two names. But it is like a coming of age story. That's kind of cliche, but it's a coming of age story, but for a 30-year-old woman. I think that this is a good this story captures like the essence of a suppressed woman who's come out of her shell, found herself, or started to find herself. Excuse me. So this could... I don't know Isabel Allende's story, right? I don't know her story. But if novels are autobiographical to some extent, this could be Isabel Allende telling her story of how... I don't know. I don't want to. People walking by. I don't want to pass judgment, or I don't want to like make assumptions. There's a bird. I don't want to make assumptions. So let's just say it feels like the author, or the person, the narrator, the person telling the story. No, it's not right. I feel like the author, though not literally Isabel Allende, but I feel like if I say I didn't know who this author is, written by anonymous, I would say that this feels like it was written by a woman who was slightly scorned at her early age, and was unhappy for a long time, and then got a divorce, and in that divorce discovered, in the process or after the divorce, she had to rely on herself and discover that she is her own person, that does not have to be dependent on anyone, a man or a grandmother or mother, that she could fend for herself, and that she was more than just a tool to have babies. And she started to explore herself artistically, utilizing her gifts. She started to explore herself sexually, I can see the reflection on the car. There's a fucking bird. What is this fool doing? Take that shit. Crawl on somebody else's damn car. I see his ass. So it feels like the author really had, this is an experience. She tells a story of her experience through of a growing up sheltered, marrying early at her early age, being neglected by that husband, and then having to go through a separation and rediscover who she actually was. The damn birds. Anyways, it was not your typical story with the beginning, middle, and end. It just, like, it kind of grabs you and wants you to keep reading, and you kind of keep wondering where it's going. And then, of course, there's a little hint of mystery that you want to find out, which she tells you in the end. But that's what drives you to keep going, is that little bit of explanation that you're looking for, that you want. And not my favorite of her books. Stories of Eveluna, probably my favorite. That's for real magical realism. Zorro was fucking fantastic. I love that. I love Zorro. And then this one, which was, again, beautifully written, I still liked it. But not magical realism. There weren't too many of those moments where I like had to stop and just like, oh my God, those words are so beautiful. Which happens a lot in her magical realism. But anyways, Portrait and Sepia. Oh, one. So great book, I loved it. But one thing, and this is all me, right? Is that, you see that? That's 2 full pages, and there's not one paragraph break in there. Not one. That drives me nuts, man. Okay. First paragraph break starts right here. Nothing. Nothing. 4 pages later, right here. Right? That just gets me. That's nothing against the author, or nothing against people who write like that. But when I look at that, it intimidates me, and I don't want to start the paragraph or the page. I did find myself like, just keep going, you can do it. I got to give myself motivational speeches to read this book. Something in me, and I blame my attention span and my ADD issues and shit, but I make paragraph, when I write, my paragraphs are, well, shit. Check it out. Short, son. Paragraph breaks all through this mug. Couple cent. That's how I roll. That's how I like to read. I don't know. Look at this. That's a long one right here. Anyways. If I want to be a good writer, I gotta read a lot of books. So I'm back at it. I took a break for a while. I wasn't reading a lot. I was just watching Netflix. I still like to watch Netflix, but now that I don't have a job, I get to read a lot more. And to be honest, before I quit my job, I started reading this way before that. Well, not too way before that, but so I committed to read. Goddamn birds. Anyways, that's it. Portrait in Sepia, Isabel Allende. I do recommend it, especially if you're a woman who's been trapped in any kind of situation for a long time and is just now finding yourself. That's a good recommendation, right? That's good. Or if you just like Isabel Allende, read it. All right? Peace out.